Welcome to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. In this segment, Pat and James discuss their personal policies on whether they will offer to perform sample editing or writing for their creative adjacent work potential clients. Pat says yes, within reason. James says no. Find out why. Hey, Pat.
Yes, James.
Well, I've got this pile of samples for the draperies because we're redoing all the draperies in the clubhouse.
I'm so glad we're doing that.
There's like 300 windows.
I know.
And each one has its own sort of aesthetic.
Yeah.
I'm very demanding about that, I must say.
I am.
Yes. So I'm looking at, literally, it's a pile of samples. And I'm thinking, what the hell do I do with all these samples?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How do I manage samples?
How do you manage samples? It's a big question. I mean, where draperies are concerned, you just hold them up and go, yeah, no, yeah, no, yeah, no.
Yeah. But who says yes? Who says no?
Right.
And it's amazing to me that these drapery companies will send out literally hundreds of samples to us.
True. They probably have some guardrails. Yeah.
Guardrail. There we go, Pat.
Yeah.
There it is. That's what this segment is about. Samples and guardrails.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're not talking about drapery samples anymore. It's about samples of your own creative work for your creative adjacent work when you're working with a client on a creative project. It's very normal for people to want to see sample of your work.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what is your policy? In a word, what is your policy?
My policy.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
And mine is no.
Okay.
So explain yourself, Dobie.
Okay. Well, I don't do what you do. So all of your work. So when somebody asks me for a sample, I say, send me your manuscript. Send me the entire thing.
Yeah.
I want to see the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll read the first 10 pages. I'll do marginal comments, which are usually developmental in scope. And if I feel like their prose is weak enough that it needs bootstrapped, I will do a sample, like a page or two of line editing to show them some of the bigger prose issues that is infecting their manuscript and, stopping the reader from being able to engage with their work. So that's simple for me because they're sending me their work. They're not asking me to show the work of other clients. What they can do if they want to see my clients' other work is go to my website. I have over 200 books on my portfolio. They can scroll through, look for one in the genre they write in because I'm a generalist, and then they can go get that book and read it. And then they'll know if it's been edited well or not. I do different types of editing, so they won't know what the original look like, but they'll know what the finished product looks like and if it's generally a good quality book. I can't send them samples of other people's manuscripts because I operate under a contract that has a confidentiality clause, which says I will not disclose any of your work to anybody else, and I will not even disclose the fact that I worked on your book to anybody else without your permission in writing. So all of the projects I have on my portfolio page of my website are from clients who said, absolutely, put my book up on your portfolio page. And I'll do a link to buy it. I can't remember if it's on this iteration of my site, but normally I'll put a link so that if somebody wants to, they can go buy the book. So that's how I do samples. And my guardrails are the number of pages I do, the fact that I need to see the whole thing. Then I know it's their work. It's not what they call a Franken edit, where they send a sample chapter, 5 different sample chapters to 5 different editors to ask for an edit to show their work and then just never hire anybody. They just go, oh, look, my book's edited. Because it doesn't actually work that way for books anyway, but so that's my process, and my guardrails are both for the client and for myself. I want to see the whole thing. I want them to know that whether I work with them or not, I will give them feedback. So sometimes I see a book and I know I'm not a good fit for it. So I say, I'm not going to pitch. I'm not going to offer to work on your book, but here's what I thought. And and that allows them to compare what I thought to somebody they do end up working with. I just because I've already read the part I'm going to read.
Right.
It doesn't cost me. It cost me about an hour to tell them what I thought, and I'm willing to spend an hour to help a writer out. I do
Yeah.
it 20 times a week? No, but I don't. Sample edits come and go at different periods, so it depends on how many I have in the hopper. And then if there's so those are my guardrails, and also I do not charge for sample edits. Many editors do.
Hmm.
They'll
Really?
charge, yeah, £100 is one. There's the one in UK, Louise Harnby, very high profile editor. She
Mm.
charges £100 to do 1,000 word sample,
Wow.
and you don't see the whole manuscript. I need to see the whole thing, uh,
Right.
and there's reasons for that, but I won't go into them because they're quite long winded. Um, there's also people would charge $50, but I always put myself in the writer's shoes. And if you were asking 5 different editors for a sample edit and each charge $100, which is probably more than norm now, you've spent 500
Mhm.
bucks without hiring anybody yet.
Right.
And and sample edits are not all that thorough. Mine are really weirdly thorough, like ridiculous. But
Yeah.
many editors just say, "Oh, I read some stuff. Here's what I thought. Here's my quote," or they just return the pages to you with a few marginal comments and a few line edits. It doesn't give you. It's not $100 worth of work.
Right. Right.
Um, so I get it, but I also feel like, no, I'm a service provider. I came from a field where it was normal to write a short proposal to do work, or sometimes a long proposal that 5 people would work on for a year if you're getting $5 million worth of work. Um, so I just take it as part of the cost of doing business, and I never show them other people's work without
Right.
explicit written permission.
Okay. So to explain my no,
Yes.
in large part, it's because I'm at the opposite end
Yeah.
where there's zero content created,
Yeah.
right? And so part of what my process is about is making sure that before we start creating any content, before chapter one gets written, that we're on the same page. So there's this whole process that I go through to understand the story, the voice, the narrative. If it's a piece of thought leadership, to really do a deep dive into their business domain or medical research domain or whatever it is,
Yeah.
so that when we come to that point of now we're ready to write, we are firm in the fact that we know exactly what we're going to do,
Yeah.
right? And so you can't get that level of detail from somebody through a single conversation and then saying, okay, I'll go write you 100 page or, 1,000 words, right?
No. No.
It's just not going to happen. You're just, taking it's not even a moving target.
Yeah.
There's no target. And
Hmm.
so it just doesn't make any sense to do. Um, so what I do to make up for that is two things. And the first is I say to people, I will have as many conversations with you as you need, and I will answer any questions. I will provide you any insights. I am absolutely open and generous
Yeah.
with them for as much as they need, for as long as they need. It could go weeks, it could go much longer than that, even. Usually it
Wow.
doesn't, but it
Yeah.
can, because writing a book with somebody is not only a huge investment of time, but it's a
Hmm.
huge financial investment. And
Yeah.
so I absolutely need for them to be as confident that yes, this is who I want to work with, right? And I
Yeah.
have to be confident too that I can, I want to work with this person.
Yeah.
And it's rare for me to bump into somebody where I'm like, I don't want to work with them, but
Yeah.
they got to be comfortable. And then the other piece, and this gets a little complicated because I do sign very strict NDAs with people where I
Hmm.
will not in any way talk about that we work together, share anything that we've done, share any of the supporting information or data, or anything they send to me, and anything we produce is exclusively and solely theirs.
Hmm.
And there will be absolutely zero disclosure
Yeah.
of that, with the exception that I do carve out the ability to use limited amounts of the work to send as samples to prospective clients, right? So I can't use it to advertise. I can't say,
Right.
here's something I've written, come find me. But somebody comes, finds me, we have conversations, we really get into here, what is the story that you want to write? And then say, okay, I have 3 samples that I will send you
Yeah.
so that you can get a sense of, my skills, my writing, the voice, the range, and that
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
And so that really, that's the only sort of exception to that
Yeah.
NDA. And I make sure too that I get a verbal, either recorded or written in an email promise from them. I will not forward this to anybody. I
Right.
won't share this with anybody. So, and I know too, I'm not going to send a sample out. Like I'm not going to have a conversation with somebody who's like, I don't know. Uh, can you, and then, fire off a sample because I want to get them signed up. It's more like the person has shown interest, shown at some level of commitment to
Yeah.
me, and really needs to just see something that I've written.
Yeah.
And the other piece of that too is sometimes I'll use samples of just my own writing if it
Yeah.
works, if it
Hmm.
fits. But that's not often the case. And really they need to see writing that is the product of collaboration.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And
That makes a lot of sense.
that becomes really important.
Yeah.
But yeah, so otherwise I say to people, look, I get it. You want to have a sense of, when you buy a car, you drive the car, right?
Right.
You
Yeah.
buy it. And so you want to be able to feel like, yeah, okay, I feel secure. And so I do everything I possibly can to let somebody get to that point of surety.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just they're not going to get what they need from a sample from me because we haven't gone through the process.
Yeah.
And,
You know,
that's
you're
really the big piece of it, I think.
that's the thing. Yeah, yeah, you're right. The difference between us related to book manuscripts is that I get them fully done and you get them just as air and conversation. So
Hmm.
you have no samples that aren't protected by NDA except the ones that you've mentioned. So your guardrails seem very logical to me.
Hmm.
Um, I've been thinking about changing my
Hmm.
sample. I actually like doing them. I like doing sample edits because I love reading work I haven't read before. I like to be the first person sometimes to read
Yeah.
somebody's work. It's exciting to me. Um, the problem has been that sample edits can take me 2 or 3 hours for each one,
Yeah.
including all the interactions. The email back and forth, saying, "Oh, here's my process for sample edits. If you'd like one, send me your whole manuscript, etc., etc." I ask them a few questions, but the first question I always ask them now, and I put this back in place as a guardrail because, well, for obvious reasons, once I tell you what it is what's your schedule? When do you need somebody to start work on your book?
Right.
And in fact, I usually change it around and say, I am booking projects for June onward or August onward. Sometimes it's 8 months
Hmm.
out. I stopped that for a few years and I ended up getting a ton of work plus having to do a ton of sample edits um, because I didn't say when I was available. Now I say when I'm available in order to stop people from asking me for a sample edit if in fact they want somebody to start next week because I'm not going to be available next week. And so that just wastes
Yeah.
my 2 or 3 hours that I would spend on client work or on my own work. I'm doing a sample edit for somebody who's just not in a position to work for me, with me. So
Hmm.
however, that has backfired because I made that clear to the last sample edit person did. I said I'm not available till June, uh, and they said, well, maybe I could wait till June. They sent me their manuscript. I did the sample edit. They read it, said, I really wish you were available before June because I want to work with you. I've already started making changes to my manuscript based on your feedback from the
Hmm.
sample, but I don't want to wait until June. So I'm going to look for somebody else. And I was
I
like, well, I think I was pretty clear that if you don't want to wait till June, don't ask me for a sample edit. But I didn't
Yeah.
say any of that. That was my inside voice because it's too late. The person has already taken advantage of my time in a way that didn't work for me. So I'm not going to work with them now anyway. I'm like, no, why would I? They've proven themselves to be just a little bit untrustworthy and like walk away if you're not willing to wait. And maybe they
Yeah.
were thinking, oh, I'll wait. But I don't think that was the case because they came back with saying, I'm not willing to wait. And maybe that was
Yeah.
a nice way of saying I don't want to work with you, but I'd rather just have the I don't want to work with you. I found somebody else.
Yeah.
So all of that to say, I'm thinking now about, well, okay, if you've got the type of prospective person who is potentially willing to say anything in order to get the sample, um, then you're right back where you have no guardrails over your sample. There you
Yeah.
might, but I think that's pretty rare. I've had other people come in the interim around the same period and say up front, oh, okay, that, I don't want to wait that long. I'll go with somebody else. And I've had people say, I don't want to wait. At that point, I was booking for April. This was in December. And I said, I'm not going to be able to start till April because I have other projects. And they said, well, I'd rather not wait till April, but I will. And we are under contract now, and I will start their project in April. So it just depends, I guess.
Yeah. And that, and that's interesting. It got me to thinking too that I think that's all appropriate because you can waste time in this
Hmm.
business very, very, very easily.
Really
Right.
easily.
And it's not on distractions. It's just doing things that you feel like you need to do to keep the other person engaged or
Yeah.
happy or to be, the kind of person that you want to be, right?
Yeah.
And but it also got me to thinking that, I'll have conversations with people and my first two questions for them are always, well, actually the first question, which is two parts, is what are your goals?
Yeah.
Right? What are your goals with the manuscript? What do you want the reader to feel and take away? And then
Yeah.
the other is what are your publishing goals, right? Do you
Yeah.
want to see this, become a big, huge thing, or is it more about marketing yourself or, those kinds of things? And then we have this, conversation about all that kind of stuff. And I wait until the end to really talk about fee,
Yeah. Right.
right?
Yeah.
Which is always, and before actually I've started the conversation, if I'm booking, a few months out, which is what I'm doing now, in that initial email before we've had the call, I'll say, here's my time frame. If this works for you, I'd love to have a conversation. And
Hmm.
and so we do, and I'm as generous as I possibly can be in
Yeah.
terms of giving out information and here's how agents work. They charge 15%, and this is how you got to do all this stuff, everything.
Yeah.
Um, and then obviously they want to know what the fee is, and so I'll say, well, I work on a set fee, but
Hmm.
how I sort of in this conversation where I can't give you a really specific fee. I say you can expect it to be about $1 per word.
Yeah.
So, you know, so they have a sense walking away, oh, I'm gonna be writing something that's 60,000 words. So,
Hmm.
there you go. And that kind of thing. And it's not uncommon for somebody to say, okay, that's a little bit outside or a lot outside what I thought I was going to do. And I say, that's not, this is why I have these conversations,
Yeah.
right? Is because I want everything to be on the table and I want you to walk away informed, right?
Yeah.
And then and I don't feel like that's a waste of time if that happens,
Yeah.
because I've actually had them then go and refer other people to me,
Yeah.
uh,
Exactly.
because the experience was so positive that
Yeah.
it
No,
actually
it's
turns out to be a marketing opportunity.
yeah, and I do think educating potential clients always pays off for the industry as a whole. So now that
Yeah.
person has walked away, they go, okay, well, I can't get somebody to write my book for 8 grand or 10 grand. It's going to cost more than that, and that this is why it costs more than that, because it's a multi-month commitment, many hours, and a really collaborative process. And so yeah, I think educating is part of the reason why I do sample edits. I explain the levels of editing, I make a recommendation. Part of that
Yeah.
is just simply goodwill for the industry. It's Editing is unregulated. I think collaborative writing is also an
Yep.
unregulated industry. Anybody can hang out their shingle and say they're a ghostwriter or a collaborative writer. So I consider samples almost as a. It's like you walk into a. Okay, I'm going to be weird here. You will walk into a temple and somebody hands you a little slip of here's how these places operate. You know,
Uh,
or you walk into like an airport and somebody hands you a thing if you've never been in one before. Here's how these places operate. This is what I'm doing. I'm handing them a thing saying these are how editing operates. and in
Right.
my world at least. And so, and my world is pretty, um, it's got good grounding. I've
Mhm.
I've I've been editing for a while. I know a lot of editors. I've read a lot of books on editing. I know how editors work really, and so I'm providing a service even before I actually provide a paid service.
Yeah, no, and exactly right. And, I try to do the same thing where, because I also feel like if they don't go with me, a lot of these people just, they're very first time, they're very new to it. And I try to help them understand the questions they should be asking
Yeah,
as they go out, and understanding, the sort of the complications of it, what to watch out for, those kinds of things. So if nothing else, they're more educated about how things work. So if they don't end up working with me as they go through the process, they're a little bit better at it.
yeah, exactly.
I feel absolutely 100% fine about it. So.
Same here. We are good people living in a pretty decent, most of the time, world.
We are gifts. We are gifts to our industry.
We are the champions. All right, then. Good. I'm glad we had this talk. I still don't know
Me
what I'm going to
too.
do about samples.
I
People who,
know. There's
who
more on
BS
the way.
about their timeline. There's more. There's.
We got a lot of windows.
Yeah. And guess what? We're going to get through it. We're going to, you know what we should just do? Decide on a scheme, not a different curtain for every window. That is ridiculous.
No, I want everything to be different.
I know
I want it to look like a mess.
you put that on me, but that was your idea. I
want it, crazy quilt.
I want those metal shutters that they have on, those little places at the beach where you can buy fish and chips in the summer, and then in the winter they're just shut. That's what I want.
Yeah, riot shutters.
Protect the frying pan.
Yeah.
All right. Talk later. I gotta go. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. We'd love to hear how we're doing, so please leave a comment, join our chat page, or send us an email at giftedunderachievers@substack.com. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and anywhere else you like to download your podcasts. Please hit the share and/or subscribe buttons. It really does help us out. And as always, please have a glorious day.